Well, hello and welcome again to another Goya Mentorship podcast interview with our show with Ms Lesley Nase, based out of Vermont, and she's gonna share with us today about who she is and what she's up to. But she's just a remarkable human being, and I thought, you know what, I'd love to have Leslie on the show because she's out there making a difference with people in their lives and their health and their finances and their business and relationships. And I'm really fascinated with how she does what she does. And so I reached out to her and I said, Leslie, I would love to interview you on our show in conjunction with Landed for Success because she is one of our very valuable VIP members through Dr. Lester Bailey out of Chicago. And I mean, what a generous man and giving soul. And he has a great partnership with Leslie and brought her to the table with Landed for Success. So I wanted all of you to meet her today. So welcome, Leslie. How are you?
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with you today. I so appreciate. I have seen other podcasts of that you've done with other members, so I like your work and I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I am I'm
Go ahead.
great. No matter what is going on, always I'm always good.
Very
I'm always
good.
good, and sometimes I'm even better than that.
Very good. And I appreciate that because life's about choice
Mhm.
and we choose how things go. And sometimes it's difficult and I get it, but it's good to know we have choice because animals don't have choice, trees don't have choice. Human beings, we have choice, so we can choose how things go. And I really, really admire that. So one of the first things I want to ask you, Leslie, now that you're a valuable member of Landed for Success as a VIP member, is who are you? Like, tell us about who you are, where you grew up, maybe some things people don't even know. Go ahead and share it.
You want the deep dark secrets in
The
there,
deep
huh?
dark secrets. Yes.
I grew up in Vermont. I am definitely a native of Vermont. I would say that my parents were entrepreneurs that didn't even realize they were entrepreneurs. They grew up, both of them in a farm, in the same town. My dad went and served in World War II, and when he came back, I mean, his testing and his abilities were noticed, and he was then mentored by someone who said, "You need to go to the university." Married my mom almost right out of high school, and then they went up to the northern part of the state that I live in, and that's when learning was something he loved. He tried to encourage my mom to go, but because of finances or later on it was the birth of my sister, it wasn't going to happen. So we fast forward, and there's now five children, and my younger brother was born a paraplegic. He was born with spina bifida. I, of course, you're looking at me, and I'm born with a birthmark, and that makes a bit of a difference, which I'll touch on as life goes. But when I talk about them being entrepreneurs, life opened up in the town that we lived in for my folks to buy this house that was 1809, 3 stories high, had all this beautiful land that was along the Battenkill River and another shorter river that came into it. And what they envisioned at a time when tourists were starting to come to Vermont in droves, and especially in their tents to go fishing, to enjoy the skiing or the hiking, they created a campground. They built it basically by hand. And so that was what I grew up with the campground, the development of that, building a business, the good times, the not so great times as the flooding season came, how to greet people, how to take them into their sites, how to pick up trash on an old 1942 Ford truck with running boards and side mirrors that we rode alongside of, as we picked up trash, jumped on and off. It was a wonderful childhood in which to meet a lot of people, but we did work hard, all of us. And it was important to my parents about education as well. So I do have 2 degrees. I have one in early childhood education and one in elementary education. Only a change in life came, and this was after I married and I have 2 children and I started doing some teaching work. A change came, and that was the passing of my dad. And one of my brothers said to me, you're the only one who really is going to be able to run this business because my siblings, except for my older brother, he worked the business, but not the back end of it. So I ended up running the campground for many years, growing it, bringing it into the age of having internet and other niceties there. But the basis of my life and growing up is my connection to the earth. It always has been. Always appreciation for the earth and living with earth as the weather changes and things happen and the resilience that you build from that. And yet I'll say the house that I lived in, I saw the spirits and things happening that others didn't. So as I fast forward and working through the campground, I also knew that spiritual side of me, that curiosity was always growing. There's something more. Animals have been big in my life as well. So I took a course in shamanism and later became part of the board of directors of the shamanic foundation that I was working with at that time. And I loved it. Only it was hard to balance both sides of your life, right? You know there's something more in your life that you want to do, and yet here you are, you're doing something really well, you love, you're supporting your family, you're giving a service, and I didn't know how I was going to break through and make the change. I didn't. In 2011, Vermont suffered a major storm that they called Irene, and three-fourths of the campground flooded safely. We had everybody out. We were good at reading the river and knowing when to keep moving people out and listening. And we were lucky in the fact that nothing happened to the main house, just the grounds itself. But it was that point when I saw a big wall of water come through the berm down by the campground when I went to go check one more time that I realized this was the dam that broke for me, and it was time for me to move on. So 5 years later, after I rebuilt it, after I said to my brother, look, it's time for you to retire. We're selling the campground. We're moving on. That was a hard one for him, but it was the right move for him. And we moved up north, my husband and I, where our grown children are, our 4 grandgirls are, and we're within 30 minutes, 40 minutes to both of the families. And I jumped into online. I was going to try and figure out how is this online thing work, and it was a lot of series of ups and downs. I had some okay coaches. I had a shark who took me for everything, a lot of money. And along the way, though, my deep spiritual belief and my contact with my own guides and angels, if you want, I read the signs and I knew what I needed to do within me to release what no longer served me, but to be open to whatever that next stepping stone is. So for me, that took me to an organization where I had my own TV show for a while. I left that organization and I did a podcast with another organization and coach for a while. And you continue to grow and learn until it's like, yeah, it's time for me really. I understand everything I've learned and where I've gone, which led me to becoming part of 90210 Enterprise in California, where I serve as a relationship officer and a production officer for them. but I still do my own work as a speaker. And that's one thing that I've really studied. I studied through Toastmasters, being in a rural area. That was what I had available. And now I'm opening up. I spoke in California and we'll go back and speak there and other places and opportunities. And it's really about helping people get in touch with who they are on the inside. So there's the
Fantastic.
nutshell.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm just being pulled in by your story, and as you're talking, you're a very good storyteller, by the way.
Thank
I'm sure your grandkids appreciate that because as you're speaking, I'm visualizing the rushing river and the dam breaking, and you're just pulling me into your story. So that's a gift, by the way. You're very good at storytelling.
Well, I didn't tell you that I did that for a while as well.
No,
Storytelling, being, so
you're very
yes, I
good.
studied that.
You
Yes.
should write some storybooks. I would definitely read them.
Wait a minute.
And in fact, there is one right now about, the river.
Oop, can you see
Who
that?
who paints? Yes, I can
Who
see
paints the
that.
world? You can't see it quite well in this.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
children's book that I wrote.
Very good. So see that?
I, yeah,
I didn't even know that. So
no.
that's remarkable, Leslie. And it's funny you're sharing a story, and I could tell one thing that stood out for me from your story is how you rolled with the punches. You shared about being born with your birthmark, and I'm sure
Mhm.
that had its challenges in school and stuff like that, and growing up, and then you started your own family, and you had to run the business because mom and dad couldn't anymore, and you had to work with your siblings, and wow, yeah, I really got that you just figured it out, figured it out, figured it out, figured it out, and then you incorporated what you learned, and that leads into my next question. So share with everybody, what do you currently focus on? Like you talked about becoming certified as a shaman and plugging into all these various channels and energies and platforms, and also share for the business owners in Landed for Success how you've used that in your career to help assist people in business. Maybe share one or two examples. So go ahead and share that, please. I'd love to hear what you have to say about that.
Thank you. I work as an intuitive coach for business and for personal, and I'll give you two examples of both. But much like you, we had a short conversation before this, and I told you how much I like feel like you get me because I get what you do, and that's amazing work when we can work with people and see the patterns and the themes in their lives and help cut through that. That is a lot of what I do, and I do use some of the metaphysical tools. So I'll ask people, when is their birth date? Where were you born? And the time that you were born. Not because I'm an astrologer, but I do look to see the phases of the moon has always been important in life. So where are you in that pattern that shows up in your chart? And then there's other charts that I look at as well. When I look at numerology, that's there. When I and it's taking those pieces and seeing what the pattern is that helps to narrow down for somebody who feels like there's something more out there for me. I don't know what it is, but I feel like I really need to do something different. And many of these people, they've done what they've been thought that they were supposed to do. That question when you're younger, what are you going to be when you grow up? Well, if you took over the family business like I did, you might discover that wasn't really where you want to be. If you were good at accounting or systems and you've done it and you reached a pinnacle, that may not be where you want to be anymore. There's another passion, there's something else inside. And I know that I use the phrase of this changing world. And AI is one of those things that are changing the world that scares people as much as it's here to help us not take over our humanness, but to take those tasks that are take longer as a human and do them quicker to help in that way is what I see. But the human side of us is so important. And this is where my work comes in. Really being human. We look outside all the time. We say we see with our eyes. Yet what we're doing is we're giving our that sense of power away by what somebody else has to say and not really going inside, not the critical voice from the head, but down into the heart, that feeling body and where you are. So here's one example. It happens to be somebody from Toronto. She is a client a longtime client. I started off, she found me when I was finishing up doing animal communication, and she asked me if I would help her with a dog that she adopted from the Middle East. And I said yes. So we worked on helping this dog come out for her to make that connection. When the dog passed, she was devastated. She felt like I'd done everything wrong. But what I realized in the conversation, and this is one of the reasons I don't do as much animal communication, is that when you think in terms of energy or quantum physics that you hear people talk about, we are entangled. My energy, even though you're in the Caribbean and I'm in Vermont, we're entangled. We reach out and there's that energetic connection. When you live with an animal, it's the same thing. There's an energetic connection. The same with the people who are in your house, the same when you go to work. There's always something there. And so the deeper question really got down to her how unhappy she was in her family business, where she was very successful, but not what she wanted to do. So holding that space is really what I do. I'm not telling anybody what to do. Those answers are already inside of you. I help sift down so that you can form the right questions, see the patterns for yourself. And she realized I really want to take a counseling course and help others with drug addiction and alcoholism. That was part of her younger history that she had broken out of. And it has, it's like in anything. She had to break through and say, I'm going to do this. She felt great, except now she had to deal with parents, other family members who are saying, wait a minute, what are you're leaving this high paying job to go and do this? Yes. And along the way, we actually dealt with a health crisis as well. So she was very grateful that I was still there in her life to hold space just for her to be able to get all the information that was being bombarded at her from doctors, from nurses, from well-meaning friends and family to decide what was really important for her as she navigated the medical highway and system. And thankfully, she's on the other side. She's back in her studies, and it just she still taps in and says, "Hey, I want to do a meditation with you. I want to do something." So we still keep very much in contact. So that is one great example of somebody who's in business. She still will be in private practice in the next year. On the other side, it may be personal, but it also was business for the other person that I'm talking about, who was an artist, who is an artist, came to me because there have been very successful artists. They get featured in a Midwest museum every year for their waterfowl or their birds of some kind. And it travels around not only the United States, but her pieces have traveled the world in places. Yet there was a feeling of being stuck in what she was creating. There was that pattern that I know what I want to put on there. I have to do it this way. and left no opportunity for the creative part to really evolve. I've got to research, I've got to do this, I've got to block this, I've got to, and that gotta really got to her where she wanted another technique in her work. And so that's where I had a 90-day course that she took, and I was there to help her through that. And in the end, she didn't feel depressed or pressed on time at the deadline to finish it. She felt more of a relief, and she could feel the pride within inside instead of the, oh my gosh, it's finally done. Let me just send it off. And that's a shift and a change when you can just turn the picture like a kaleidoscope. You turn it a little bit. What are you going to see? What will make the change and the difference? And something that you said in our pre-con talking about your work is action. How are you going to take action? Many times people need to have some kind of accountability. Who's going to be there to help them sort it through? We've all gone to these great conferences, all the bells and whistles. We get excited. We're going to do this. And we come home and you lose the energy, the momentum, and everything else. And you feel like, I don't know where to start. So I help with that. I help with the start, the middle, and the continuation of unfolding, because there is no end. If there's end, you're 6 feet under, not 6 feet over, and still breathing.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing that because again, you pulling me into those stories and I can actually visualize you having those conversations with people and helping them to maneuver and figure their path out and their stuff and clearing those blocks and helping them come to the realizations on their own. It's almost like you're like they're in a dark cave and you're the one with the flashlight and you're like directing them out of the darkness and they just have to follow your voice and follow the light. So yeah, I definitely can relate to some of that as I work with my clients as well to help them level up and and clear their stuff. And again, to get in tuned with who they are because the answers are right here.
Yeah.
And once we shift this, everything else around us starts coming together and starts falling into place. So thanks for sharing that, Leslie. And so the final question I have for you is, share with everybody in conclusion, maybe a defining moment in your life that was the aha moment, and you go, yes, now I'm crystal clear on who I am and what I want to do, and maybe any final words of wisdom to the Landed for Success community or just anyone watching this interview.
The defining moment, I think there are so many within us, the signs and symbols that happen along the way that each time we take a step, it's like the first time I stood on stage for being a speaker, and declaring this is what I am versus, oh, I'm going to become this. So the first time that you look and you find, wow, they've got it. They've got my message. I was able to craft a speech that made a difference, and that's exciting. Able to weave together what's there and exciting. When the phone call from a relationship, Dr. Natalie, who called me, said, here, I'm working with 90210 Enterprise. Why don't you take a look at it? And when I listened, I felt inside, I can know, like, and trust this person already. And it was the same the first time I saw Dr. Lester Bailey, Chief. It was no hesitation to get a hug from this man in person and feel like, okay, we're connected. And then later we found out that we had been at the same place at the same time years earlier in our lives and never knew that each other was there. So that's how the life works sometimes. something happens, you meet someone, and landed for success happen, and it's just meeting Gordon and having a conversation was like, yeah, I want to be part of this. And one of the things that you said last night is something that I truly believe, and that is that when you shift inside, when you make that choice to be who you truly are, and you're being of service, and you're sharing what you love, your passions, and who you are, you're not chasing anything in this world. You're finding you're the magnet. And that's been a strong belief for me that I bring into my own reality what I want to create. And I have this I always have a theme in the year, and creative curiosity is this year's theme. So I always look at it, how good can it get? You know? And it's like it's getting better than I ever thought. There are things unfolding that I didn't envision, but I took a chance and I said yes, and I moved forward.
Well, that's a perfect conclusion. And thank you so much, Leslie, for sharing what you did. And I can definitely tell you're playing a big game in the universe and you're making a difference for people. And what a blessed life to live. You know, when you really step into your purpose and really define who you are, and there is no confusion, there is no chaos, there is no helter-skelter. You're clear, crystal clear on who you are. And that's a beautiful and powerful place to exist. And so we are very proud and we feel honored that you're part of the Landed for Success community. So I can't wait to hear the stories with you working with our members. So for those of you watching this interview, please reach out to Ms. Lesley Nase. Go to her profile on her Landed for Success page and reach out to her. If you can't get a hold of her, get a hold of me. I'll put you in touch with her. Watch this interview as many times as necessary till you really resonate with her energy and what she's about, and have others in your life watch this, because maybe there's someone you know that's got a block, or they're dealing with something, or they're unclear, or their path is not unfolding as they would hope, and they're stuck. Put them in touch with Leslie, and you never know, that one or two or maybe three conversations, or them plugging into her system and the process she puts people through can be life-saving. It can be life-saving for some people. And I'm sure Leslie has more stories, so I'll leave it up to you to reach out to her. But thank you again, Leslie, for your time today. And on behalf of the Landed for Success community and the Goya Mentorship Show, we want to thank you for who you are and the difference you're making with humanity. And we want to encourage you to keep on doing that.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you very much.
welcome. Have yourself a wonderful day.
I will.
Cheers.